Hello, I'm Will Yeoman. I'm CEO of Writing WA, and welcome to another episode of Pod Street, Writing WA's official podcast. Where tonight, and I say tonight because it is kind of, well, it's late afternoon here at the Writing WA offices here at the State Library of WA. So let's say tonight because we're just about to have a book launch. This is, now I've got to get this right now, Joanne Zara Ellen Morrell, author, podcaster, extraordinaire, traveller. I know you love travelling around Australia. Jo, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me, Will.
Joanne Morrell was born in Perth, Western Australia, but grew up in a little fishing village off the east coast of Edinburgh in Scotland, hence the accent. She has a Bachelor of Arts in Writing from Edith Cowan University with minors in Editing and Publishing, a certificate in Creative Writing from Open Universities, and a Diploma of Freelance Journalism from the Morris Journalism Academy. And my computer's just gone off, and there we go, it's back on. Joanne has 6 years commercial technical script writing and freelance writing experience under her fingertips, working in her own business and for a media company. Jo is also host and creator of the Hybrid, and that's in capitals, Hybrid Author Podcast, a 3-yearly run weekly show for writers interviewing industry professionals on all aspects which make up forging a hybrid author career. This entails not committing to just one way of doing things. It's writing in all formats, across genres, mixing writing styles, publishing all ways, and getting comfortable promoting your books. The podcast has been listened to in over 41 countries and will surpass 140 episodes this Friday at the time of recording. So, Jo, that's quite impressive, and I haven't read the entire bio here. I don't know. Look, it's amazing. And I love this concept, this hybrid concept, because the word sort of sums up not just hybrid publishing, but your own career, doesn't it?
Honestly, since I've started that podcast and with the term hybrid and the people that I've spoken to, the term is just coined off in so many different directions that I never thought it would. I'd started it out as in the publishing aspect, so
yes,
the traditional side and the self-publishing side, and not necessarily. Some people look at it and they think hybrid publisher, so working with a hybrid publisher. That's not really the side I was going for.
Yeah, sure. Interesting.
Yeah, but since speaking to people, for me, it's kind of not just writing in one category. And another person that I spoke with, their work was even hybrid to the point where they were writing memoir, but it was like it was a memoir, but they were also putting fiction in and adding on that memoir as well. So they were kind of mixing all sorts of things. And I feel like it's just creating just different stuff altogether, you know. It's not one way of just doing something.
Yeah,
I feel, so.
And look, I think it's amazing too because today we just have so many options available to us thanks to modern technology.
Yeah.
That why would you just want to stick to one format or one genre or one platform? There's so much open to people. For example, you know, Writing WA's got its own Substack, plug. And I just love seeing all the amazing authors on there, especially locals.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of West Australian authors on there. Natasha Lester's one that comes straight to mind.
Sasha Wesley.
Yeah, Sasha Wesley, of
Julia?
course. Yeah, totally.
There's
Heaps.
Yeah.
And it's really exciting. But I wanted to ask you about the novel we're about to launch this evening by Sasha Wesley, actually. She is launching the book for you. Tell me more.
That's it. Well, it's called The Writer, the Hairdresser and the Nurse.
Yes.
And I dub it as feel-good, fast-paced, emotionally charged women's contemporary fiction, which is a bit of a mouthful. But it's, the book is about 3 women leaning on their long-time friendship to help get them through, you know, professional struggles, parental dramas, and personal sort of internal struggles as well. So it's 3 stories intertwining together. It's told chronologically, third person, and it deals with some big themes. But this is book 1 of 4 in the series, and even though it is a lot of themes, friendships is at the heart of this series. So this book particularly is lifelong friends, sort of long friendships. Yeah.
That's incredible. And so you've made that commitment to have a the first of 4 books in the series. That's quite admirable as well. So you've kind of got it roughly mapped out, the trajectory,
or from so I started writing this book at the start of 2023 last year. Right. And it was going to be this series. I thought I'll do a bit of an experiment a rapid release experiment and see if I could pump out the 4 books through the year. So one every 3 months, and I'm talking writing it, publishing it, producing it. I think I was just mad, but especially because my circumstance changed at the start of last year, where we sold our family home, pulled the kids out of school, bought a caravan, and went to travel around Australia. So effectively, where I thought I'd have more time to do this, I had far less, even not working the day job, homeschooling. And we didn't have an itinerary or anything. We were just kind of winging it where we were going. So you didn't know what was happening day to day. And most of the writing got done on the road and things. So out of that big goal, 1 book was born, not 4. And again, I think of the next in series, which I'll hopefully, I will be starting. I've already kind of started it this year. And ambitiously think I'd love to have it out by the end of this year, but my realistic author is saying probably start next year.
Voice of reason, hey?
She's annoying. I've got one side that's like, it's go for it with this, and then the other's like, well, no, actually, this is really what's going to happen.
It's all about getting that balance, isn't it?
That's it.
So thinking about hybrid too, I was just looking at your educational resume too. It's a bit of a hybrid education. You're sort of jumping around at different things, but it's all related to one thing, which is, of course, writing and communication and so forth.
Yeah.
What was your first love, though?
It was the novel writing.
The creative writing.
Yeah, definitely creative writing. And it was probably mid-20s that I picked up writing again. Just the last time that I lived in Scotland, actually, and it randomly felt, I can remember the day even, felt bored for whatever reason and thought, I'm going to write a short story. And it didn't come from nowhere. I did write stories as a child, and any merit certificate I had, it was for storytelling and things like that.
Sure.
When you look back and you see these things, and I was an avid reader to the point where my nickname was Mouse, and I don't know what happened, because generally people wouldn't say that about me right now. But so picked it back up then, doing this short story, and started writing a young adult fiction book, which I will never see the light of day, because it was really just my childhood, I guess, my adolescence, and changed some names in it, but people would be able to see who they were in that. And from that, I decided that I was going to take it seriously and started, I did the certificates first, and I'm not sure why I went into the journalism one, but then undertook the writing degree at ECU. So the book writing's always been the passion. Fiction mainly, but after I left uni, I thought, writing a book takes a long time. I thought I would set up shop as a freelance writer, earn that money on the side while I built the book business.
Yes.
Effectively, I found out pretty quickly that was 2 businesses, and I hardly had time raising children as well to build one. So I went out and got the commercial technical script writing job as, the bread and butter while I was doing the book writing and things on the side. So that's where the plethora of different writing styles came from. But it's always the books that do it for me, for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure that you've learnt, a lot of tricks along the way from journalism or from editing or any of those other things that you've done.
Yeah.
Which has helped you become a better creative writer.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't, what's the word? It wasn't a bad thing to do, because I do have 2 nonfiction books that came from that experience.
Yes.
One's quick tips, freelance writing, quick tips for fast success. So that was just 60 plus quick tips about, business startup, business values, rates of pay, that sort of thing. And even though it's kind of set for freelance writing, anybody that's got a writing business, it's actually good tips from going out and doing it yourself that you can pick up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the other nonfiction book is Author Fears and How to Overcome Them. So that came from, self-publishing what I guess I called a junior fiction book in my first year of uni, and I was so desperate to get this thing out. I was really impatient, and commissioned a illustrator to do the work, and he was fantastic, Brendan Cownans. Not sure what happened to him.
Okay.
But when I put it out, because you live inside your head with the writing, and you're busy getting it all, putting it all together, and then once it was out there, everyone was so excited for me, and I was just horrified. Like, I was mortified people would be reading the work, they would have opinions about me, because I feel, especially with writing, it's like cutting yourself open and bleeding everywhere, and effectively some people might spit on you.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to open. You have to. You're exposing yourself, aren't you?
Definitely.
Emotionally.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And I know no other way. It's, for me, writing is really cathartic, so I
Yes.
definitely express myself through it
Yes.
better than verbally, I think. So I had this major self-doubt, and anybody, oh, you know, you've written a book, and I'd say, oh, it's crap, don't buy it. Like, so I never sold many copies, obviously going around telling people how rubbish it was. But I've used that as an example, and I knew I would ever since, to be like, you know, this is what not to do.
This
I
is how you
suppose.
don't do it, exactly.
Yeah. And ever
Yes.
since then, like you know, I still deal with a lot of self-doubt and stuff like that, but I know that's part and parcel with what we do, I guess. It keeps us
Absolutely.
humble.
Yeah.
I don't think any time in my career I'll be able to walk out as a writer, no matter how many books are behind my belt, and be like, I'm amazing, this work's amazing. I just can't see it personally, but I'm getting better with each one.
One would hope so. Tell me about the podcast. How did that all come about?
Sure. So as well as obviously studying for writing, I consumed everything, joined writers groups and organisations and anything I could get my hands on. And I'm a massive podcast lover and avid listener of also
Podcast
yourself.
junkie.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we were talking before, saying that I started out listening to the So You Want to Be a Writer podcast, which is Valerie Khoo. It was Alison Tate at the same when I was listening, but I think it's just Valerie now, which ironically is, I've had them both on the podcast, my
Yes.
podcast at different times. So that was a bit of a bucket list for me. And I listened to the Creative Pen podcast as well, which is a podcast from Britain, mainly self-publishing that she has talked about, or independent publishing, but she's gone off into the really AI lover person and different things. Very, very smart lady. And she just inspired me to want to start a podcast. But for me, I felt like I would use it as a marketing tool for my own sort of authorship. But
Yeah.
it is just, you know yourself, it's become so much more. You know, I'm connecting with people around the world. I wouldn't
it's
otherwise
incredible,
be
isn't
able
it?
to.
Absolutely.
Totally. And I get inspired. I get to share other people's stories. And I think at the heart of everything that I end up doing, it's just what I love. It's so important, you know. It's that connection as well. So.
Oh, totally. And
Yeah.
thinking about connection, it's a very smart thing to be in each other's podcasts. Like, so I've been your podcast, you're on ours now. And they do say that that's one thing you should do if you want to improve your reach, you know, to be on each other's podcasts.
Yeah.
So it's quite fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's the next step for me, starting to reach out to other podcasters.
Yeah.
And now I've got something to share. My
Well,
novel.
indeed, yes.
Yeah. So no, it's a great medium. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
Yeah, look, it's interesting. I wanted to ask you too, I mean, to what, obviously the publishing landscape has changed enormously, even over the last 10 years. I mean, it seems to be this exponential growth in technology, in options for people.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how you think about it at the moment, because I often hear a lot of people are so anguished and sort of, they're still fixated on going down the traditional publishing route, and that's great, but I don't think they understand how incredibly difficult it actually is.
It's really hard.
And ultimately, it can be quite unrewarding. Like,
Yeah.
you talk to people after they've had their first great novel published, and they think, "Oh, was that it?"
Yeah.
And you think, "Oh my goodness,"
Yeah, well, I've been around such a long time, and I have a lot of traditionally published friends,
Yes, yes.
mainly, really. So that's what they strive for. And to be honest, I kind of separated myself, like with the children's fiction that I was writing. I
Yes.
just kept saying that I want a traditional deal there because I want to work with professionals who know what they're doing.
Well,
and
that's
that
one
publication side.
plus with publishing
Yeah.
traditionally, that you get to work with amazing industry professionals.
That's it.
Yeah,
And I'm a massive
yes.
Fremantle Press fan, and a lot of the publishers as well. Like, but I have a keen interest in publishing myself.
Yes,
Like,
yes.
I really I like that side of it too. So with the non-fiction books that I independently published, I felt like because it was non-fiction, it was my experience, it's what I had to say. I was quite happy to go ahead and do that myself. I was already trying to submit to the traditional side for the children's, and it's just, you wait such a long time to get an answer sometimes, if you
it's
even
huge.
do.
Yes.
And I want to do this as a career. I can't. I've got no one can see it now, but I've got a big tattoo on my arm which says "Life is too short to wait," and that's actually my podcast icon. I got this in Bali a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's true. So in some regard, I'm not saying you should rush out and publish. Like, I had that lesson in my first year of uni, but I also think I don't want to sit around and wait. I want to do this. I've got a passion. And lately the traditional publishing is killing that passion for me. So I have to go out and take it now. And you know, it's not the end of traditional publishing for me. There is works that I feel sometimes is better suited that side.
And one always has to bear in mind that some of the the great classic works of literature were originally self-published.
Yeah.
Because they were either too out there, or or for whatever reason.
Yeah.
We think of Virginia Woolf, or James Joyce, all those legendary figures.
Yeah.
Walt Whitman, Matthew Riley, of course.
He's a hybrid. I've tried to get him on.
That is such a great example. I mean,
great.
I've interviewed Matthew many times over the years. Actually, he's wonderful.
He's Australian, isn't he?
Yeah. But I think he lives in the US. He's lived there for quite some time. But
and I think he was just here, or was it last year, maybe promoting stuff. So that was probably not the right time to get him. But
no.
I'm surprised when you find out how many people are self-published, but it's just a way sometimes to get your work out there, and the traditional deal can come from that as long as you're
100%. Yeah, I think of an author like who was it now? Bernice Barry, whose book on Georgia Malloy. I think that was originally self-published, and then I think UWAP picked it up and republished it.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So great local example. Happens all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Get the work out there. And maybe publishers know that. They deliberately think, you know what, we're going to let them self-publish.
Yeah.
Let's sit back, see how it does, then offer them a deal.
Well, yeah. I mean, they're not taking any risk that way or
Exactly.
anything. So, there's all sorts. And I think that's where the hybrid publishing comes in for people, where the author can kind of front some money.
Yes.
They have a bit more to do with it, that kind of thing. But there's so many different ways of doing it. Publishing these days, but the way that I kind of do it is I select a team to work with. So cover designer and humans, editors, also, and I've went with a local publisher for this book this time, whereas it was Ingram Spark over East last time, which is fine. Again, I like to try different things, and
absolutely, you have to.
Yeah. A friend of mine's just published overseas, who I'm going to have on the podcast just to find out her experience. So, I think she's had a good experience, and probably it might be quite profitable because it's been a bit cheaper, I think, for her to do that. So.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that is one of the many values of listening to a podcast such as yours. You get to hear about all those different experiences. And if you're an author and you're wondering about which option you should go with, this can be enormously informative.
People starting out, it's not everyone's got money to spend, and if they've got to find a way to get their work out there, then that might be the way for them right now. It doesn't mean it has to be the way forever. If they end up making some money, or they make a name for themselves, or they get a traditional deal, and they can easily do it a different way later on, whether it's working locally. It's felt like it's been a bit more expensive doing it this way, but I've loved the quality that's came from that, and I've loved that the printer was so close by. They delivered the book to my door, and
that's
it
really
cool to open the door, and I quite
incredible.
like that. I did like that.
No, I think that's great too. Yeah. I was interested. I mean, you obviously alluded to your travels, because that's how you wrote a lot of the book as well. But what's behind the fascination though for just wanting to what is it? Travel around Australia. I think you went on a sort of epic,
Yeah. Well, there's so many families out there doing it. This sort of nomadic lifestyle, and especially I think during COVID as well. It's just a great way to travel and see the place.
Yes.
We had loads of friends do it, and it was, and I worried about, because my children I wanted to do it. My eldest is now in her first year of high school, and I wanted to do it before she went into high school, because I wouldn't do it otherwise, and I'm not going to homeschool a high school person.
add that to your list of things you have to juggle.
Yeah, but I was quite proud of them. They actually did the work, whereas we met a family of they had some boys, and their kids refused to do the work. If your kids are not going to do the school, it's kind of like, oh gosh. But I worried about, you worry, are you doing the right thing? Are they going to get an education? But the education they got out there, like seeing the places.
Oh, of course. It's invaluable. It's
second
huge.
To none.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. I will definitely do it again. No children later on in life, I think. But you meet so many amazing people, and you're effectively living your life outside, which I really loved.
Oh, totally.
You're out looking at the stars every night, and the kids are out playing, and it was great.
No, it is beautiful. Were there any sort of highlights for you, any particular places where if you did do it again, you think, actually, this is where I want to go back and spend more time?
I don't know about more time. There was, because I don't really feel like there was much around this place, but It was at 18 Mile Beach, and that was
Okay.
just passing Broome.
Yep.
For me, just the sunsets there, they felt quite spiritual. I don't know.
Wow.
The beach that went on for miles with the shells, like I've never seen anything like it. And everybody would come up and watch these sunsets, and that really stuck with me. It was pretty special. Like,
And did any
those
of these
pictures.
experiences work their way into the book?
I actually pitched, because again went back to the freelance writing
Yes.
on the road, and I got in touch with the RAC Horizons magazine. to
Okay, so you were
pitch-
doing some journalism as well, travel
to
writing.
pitch a couple
Yes.
stories, and that was
Yes.
one of the stories was the spiritual sunsets. From there,
Wow.
they actually came back and wanted to do. They said, "Oh, we would like to do a story on you as a family," and I was like,
Oh, isn't that fantastic?
well,
no,
I didn't really want to. I was like, oh, really? Okay. So, yeah, I ended up doing like a double page spread for them with the...
And it worked out all right?
Yeah, not too bad. Well, I've seen it. So, but... I don't know. But so, yeah, that story. And I had written a children's fiction book, whether I'll pick it up again or not. I think it was called The Caravan Kid. I don't know if I did that before or after, but that was sort of... A few things made it into there, I guess.
Right,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, I often try to finish the show with 5 quick tips, and since you've written about this already, it should be pretty easy for you to
so.
just rattle off the top of your head. Five tips, 5 of your top tips for writers just starting out
Okay.
on their publishing journey.
Yeah, 5. Oh my gosh. Well, their whole, right in the book as well, but I found over the years that there is a lot of writing advice out there that can become a bit contradictory. And I've interviewed so many writers, and I've actually gone to so many book launches, and I ask at book launches, I hope no one asked me tonight, actually, you're putting me on the spot, but to put a piece of writing advice in the book, and I have, honestly, I've got so many books, not one writer has put the same tip in there.
Yes.
And not one, you might find the same, not one person's story is the
Yes.
same from starting out to writing to anything.
Yes.
Everyone's different and got their
Yes.
process, and I think that you need to establish yours. Obviously, starting out, you haven't got one, but you just go how you start. But pay attention, I find, to whether you start the story with character or whatnot, and just go on like that. Although in saying that, each one of my books has been different.
So there you go. You're continually contradicting yourself as you go along.
Yes, that's it. So it's bloody frustrating. But so is that like one tip, or is that a few tips?
I'll give you that. I think there are a few tips hidden in there, actually. Maybe one more. One more.
I'm just trying to think about one through like publishing and things. I mean, always get review copies, obviously. Do your research as well.
That's a
get
great tip.
recommendations. Don't just go with like the first person that you choose or whatnot.
Yeah.
And definitely
Yeah.
look at reviews. Sorry, it's not very informative.
No, I think it's excellent, and it's something that's quite often overlooked. So I think it was a good tip.
But also don't. Everybody thinks they have to be doing it all or doing everything. Like, just go at your own pace, so she can end up sort of burning out. And I might steal Tess's. I was at Tess Wood's launch the other day, but it was really a good tip that sort of stuck with me. And she just said, write the book. You get told to build these platforms and things, which is great. But at the end, like if that's taken away from you writing your work, then
Well, look, we talk about it all the time. One of my colleagues here, Laurie Steed, so he's got 3 or 4 books out now with different, Freo Press, UWP, blah, blah. So I think he knows a little bit about it now. He said, look, people often forget to just do the work.
Yeah.
It's very simple. Just write.
Yeah.
Don't worry about all this other stuff, because that's there to support the work. But if you don't do the work in the first place, you've actually got nothing to promote, nothing to support.
That's it. Well, my podcast takes at least a day off me, usually. I've gotten into it because I do everything myself.
Of course.
And in some cases, I'm like, is it worth it? But I find it definitely is for me right now.
Great.
So, the minute it's not, it will be out the door.
Okay, so let's see if I can remember this. Joanne Zara Ellen Morrell. Yeah. Thank you so much for being on podcast. Good luck tonight. I'll be in the audience asking those awkward questions at the end.
You're right. I better think of some tips then.